layar ya, Mbak.
Oke, silakan.
Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 3. We're gonna present our discussion about types of economic diplomacy. Next. Okay, types of economic diplomacy divided by the actor. That is first, state actor, which cover economic diplomacy. Economic diplomacy is concerned with economic policy issue, work of delegation at standard setting organization such as WTO and BIS. Economic diplomats also monitor and report on economic policy in foreign countries and give the home government advice on how to best influence them. Economic diplomacy employs economic resources, either as reward or sanction in pursuit of a particular foreign policy objective. This is sometimes called economy statecraft. And then the other one is commercial diplomacy. Commercial diplomacy, on the other hand, describe the work of diplomatic mission in support of the home country's business and finance sector in their pursuit of economic success and the country's general objective of national development. It includes the promotion of inward and outward investment as well as trade. Important aspect of a commercial diplomat's work is the supplying of information about export and investment opportunities and organizing and helping to act as host to trade missions from home. In some cases, commercial diplomats could also promote economic ties through advising and support of both domestic and foreign companies for investment decisions. And then there are non-state actors, which include corporate diplomacy and business diplomacy. In this type, the actors are MNC that we will explain further later. And last but not least, there are national NGOs and transnational NGOs that are already obvious. The actors are NGOs. National NGO diplomacy represent the interests of civil society in the economic sphere and consists of various constitutions ranging from consumer protection, anti-corruption to shareholder groups and environmentalists. And transnational NGO diplomacy is able to organize advocacy, events, and lobbying activities at cross-border levels. Transnational NGO, or we can call it TNGO, diplomats operate at an international level and include organizations such as Greenpeace, creating, for instance, coalitions against WTO, WEF, IMF, or transnational enterprises. The NGOs purposes their own policy solution in the international arena, as for example, during the multilateral negotiation on the Kyoto Protocol Agreement about the climate change, or the debt rescheduling of least developed countries at the IMF. They are also involved in implementing technical cooperation projects in developing and transition economies, thereby complementing at times even substitutioning for national governments. They also offer cutting-edge research in areas crucial for international cooperation and crisis management. Next.
Next, we will discuss further about the type of economic diplomacy that we have previously mentioned, which is business diplomacy and corporate diplomacy. So, corporate diplomacy consists of two organizational roles that are critical for the successful coordination of a multinational company. Halo, suara saya Terdengar nggak ya? Am I audible?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay.
But can you speak louder, please?
Okay. I'm sorry. So, corporate diplomacy consists of two organizational roles considered to be critical for the successful coordination of a multinational company. These two roles are essential to make multinational structures work as liaison persons in the various head offices or as temporary managers for new ventures. The first is country business unit manager, who should be able to function into cultures, the cultures of the business unit and the corporate culture that is usually heavily affected by the nationality of the global corporation. And next is corporate diplomat, who as a home country or other national, who is impregnated with the corporate culture, multilingual, from various occupational backgrounds and experience in living and functioning in various foreign cultures. Okay, next. Sorry. In contrast to corporate diplomacy, business diplomacy aims to make the external environment of its subsidiaries conducive for business activities. Business diplomacy concerned with managing the interface between a global company and its multiple non-business partners and external constituencies. For instance, global companies are expected to abide by multiple sets of national laws and multilateral agreements set down by international organizations such as the World Trade Organization or WTO and the International Labour Organization. Okay, so the next one is the difference between corporate diplomat and business diplomat. Business diplomats, and to a lesser degree corporate diplomats, should seek to identify new business opportunities in foreign markets and safeguard the corporate reputation and business sustainability within specific countries and localities. They attempt to influence economic and political decision makers and liaise with the various national, foreign, and transnational NGOs and other civil society groups who might have concern about the business conduct of the company. They have to develop social networks that encompass not only potential business partners, but also other social partners in order to promote the corporate standing of the company with the non-business communities in the various host countries where the company is active. The diplomatic space that a business diplomat operates in is very different from that of the corporate diplomat. So based on the picture, BD is referring to a business diplomat. So business diplomat manager or former diplomat, diplomat on secondment who manage interfaces between MNC and external non-business constituencies like labor unions, tribal groups, NGOs, UN agencies, and various civil society groups in foreign countries. Therefore, you can see business diplomats are more into external relations. And next is CB, referring to corporate diplomat manager who interfaces between MNC and its foreign subsidiaries, either from national headquarters to subsidiaries or from main subsidiaries to headquarters. So it can be said that business diplomats are more focused on external relations, while corporate diplomats are more focused on international relations. Next.
Okay, so we have the case study about GoViet establishment by Gojek. Next. Okay. Gojek's expansion as an Indonesian market in Southeast Asia concludes where Gojek's business strategy model is based on how market penetration can be reached by looking at new development opportunities that can increase service sales through evaluation of the spectrum combination of this market. And Gojek in this case is able to maintain its main image as a provider of online transportation service without having to experience difficulties in diversifying service for changing community needs. This kind of business model is able to support Gojek's smooth corporate diplomacy through GoViet in Vietnam, which is facilitated by the Indonesian government. As for textually, this business model is contained in the Ansoff Matrix Strategy Business Model, which prioritize four elements, namely market penetration strategies, market development strategies, product development strategies, and diversification strategies, which are reviewed against existing products and new innovation that will be carried out, such as Goviet is a company that has a large value. Although textually, critics such as Schiller in 1989 said that nation branding through public diplomacy is a kind of cultural imperialism. So it is concluded in this case, corporations such as Gojek are one of the effective weapon for Indonesia, and its influence can be felt by the public directly in the manifestation of Indonesian political economy in Vietnam. Next.
Okay, so conclusion, globalization and technological revolution has increased the speed of change within different spheres of daily life and international relations. One of the unintended developments of globalization is the participation of non-state actors in diplomacy. Traditionally, diplomacy has been the prerogative of ambassadors and envoys representing MOFAs and central government offices, and their mandate were confined to the affairs of the state. Today, management of international economic relations is no longer confined to the state, but rather extended to civil and commercial affairs. Protagonists of these new interest groups are often business executive, member of civil societies, and representative of NGOs. Seen from this perspective, it appears necessary that different actors in the enlarged sphere of postmodern diplomacy acquire the additional competency or domain expertise to engage constructively in policy dialogue.
Okay, so our presentation is already done. Is there anyone who want to ask a question or anything? Is there any question or something?
Oke, silakan yang mau bertanya. Silakan bertanya. Oke, sembari menunggu pertanyaan, boleh nanti disampaikan di kolom chat ya untuk pertanyaannya. So for today's lesson, we are talking about the types of economic diplomacy, which the presenter already told to us about what are those 6 types. Okay, so there are two types for state actors, which is economic diplomacy and commercial diplomacy. And then for the non-state actors, there are 4 of them. First, corporate diplomacy. Second, business diplomacy. Third, national NGOs. And the fourth is transnational NGOs. So about these topics, I have prepared video lessons, but unfortunately, the video is in Bahasa. So I think it's okay. Is it okay if I play the video for 14 minutes and then we can review it by using English? Anyone? Baik, tidak ada yang keberatan, okay? So I will play the video for today's lesson. The duration is about 14 minutes. And then after that, we can review it together. And also I expecting that every groups have already asked the question by using the chats or forums, okay?
Dalam video yang berjudul Growth ini, Economic Diplomacy. Halo semua, dalam video yang berjudul International Economic Diplomacy, Coexistence of Divergent Diplomatic Roles ini, saya akan menjelaskan mengenai peran dan fungsi oleh aktor diplomasi ekonomi. Materi yang disampaikan dalam video ini bersumber pada tulisan Raymond Sennett dan Licia Yu tahun 2003 dengan judul International Economic Diplomacy, Mutation in Postmodern Times. Globalization resulting in increasing complexity of international economy. Artinya, di era modern, globalisasi telah mengakibatkan peningkatan kompleksitas hubungan ekonomi internasional. Globalisasi telah menciptakan pola yang kompleks dari interaksi dan kesalingtergantungan dalam hubungan ekonomi yang dijalin oleh aktor negara dan non-negara. Selanjutnya, multiplications of diplomatic actors, yang artinya muncul aktor-aktor selain diplomat Kementerian Luar Negeri yang berkecimpung dalam urusan berdiplomasi dalam sektor ekonomi. Proliferations of foreign affairs departments at other central and provincial government ministries. Sanner and Yu menyatakan bahwa ini seringkali terjadi di negara maju ketimbang negara berkembang. Lalu, emergence of diplomatic functions in transnational enterprises. Menguatnya signifikansi organisasi internasional yang mengatur aspek-aspek perdagangan dan bisnis mendorong MNC untuk mampu menangani atau to manage non-business stakeholders di semua negara di mana mereka beroperasi. Prinsip fair competition, sustainable development, dan good governance menjadi pagar tersendiri bagi MNC dalam beroperasi. Tentu MNC harus comply terhadap standar-standar internasional tersebut, tanpa peduli apakah MNC tersebut berasal dari Amerika Serikat, Jepang, Prancis, atau negara lainnya. Lastly, growing participations of transnational NGOs in international governance and economic diplomacy, yang artinya NGO beroperasi di tingkat nasional, regional, dan transnasional yang berfokus pada masalah ekonomi, sosial, dan politik. NGO di sini mewakili masyarakat sipil bertindak sebagai pengawas berbagai permasalahan, seperti masalah lingkungan dan kemungkinan pelanggaran HAM yang dapat dilakukan oleh MNC. NGO mampu menantang negara mengenai masalah ekonomi dan bisnis melalui protes, demonstrasi, kampanye, membuat negative ranking list, dan cara-cara lainnya. Nah, Sanner and Yu kemudian mengelompokkan peran dan fungsi dalam diplomasi ekonomi sesuai dengan tujuan dan pengaruh masing-masing untuk mencapai tujuan mereka. Aktor pertama tentu saja negara. terdapat dua fungsi yang dijalankan oleh negara, yaitu fungsi diplomasi ekonomi dan diplomasi komersil. Dan fungsi ini memiliki peran sebagai diplomat ekonomi dan diplomat komersil. Lalu aktor selanjutnya adalah aktor non-negara, dibagi atas 4 fungsi. Yang pertama adalah corporate diplomacy, yang kedua business diplomacy, yang ketiga adalah national NGOs diplomacy, dan yang terakhir transnational NGOs diplomacy. Keempat fungsi tersebut menjalankan peran yang similar dengan fungsinya, yaitu sebagai corporate diplomats, business diplomats, national NGOs diplomats, and transnational NGOs diplomats. Lalu, apa perbedaan fungsi dalam diplomasi ekonomi tadi? Nah, kita akan bahas satu-satu. Diplomasi ekonomi berkaitan dengan masalah kebijakan ekonomi. Misalnya, ini adalah pekerjaan delegasi di organisasi internasional seperti WTO yang bertugas dalam menetapkan standar perdagangan. Nah, diplomat ekonomi juga memantau dan melaporkan kebijakan ekonomi di negara-negara asing dan memberikan nasihat atau masukan kepada pemerintah negara asal mengenai cara-cara terbaik untuk mempengaruhi bagaimana hubungan dengan negara di mana mereka ditempatkan. Diplomasi ekonomi ini menggunakan sumber daya ekonomi dan juga bisa menetapkan sanksi atau memberikan hadiah dalam mengejar tujuan kebijakan luar negerinya. Nah, hal inilah yang terkadang disebut sebagai economic statecraft. Selanjutnya, diplomasi komersial di sisi lain menggambarkan pekerjaan berupa misi diplomatik dalam mendukung sektor bisnis dan keuangan negara asal dalam mengejar keberhasilan ekonomi, dan tentu saja dengan tujuan umumnya adalah demi pembangunan nasional negara tersebut. Nah, yang termasuk di sini adalah promosi investasi ke dalam dan juga keluar, serta tentu saja perdagangan. Aspek penting dari pekerjaan diplomat komersial adalah penyediaan informasi tentang peluang ekspor dan investasi, dan bagaimana pengorganisasiannya. Dalam beberapa kasus, diplomat komersial juga dapat mempromosikan hubungan ekonomi melalui pemberian nasihat atau masukan, dan juga dukungan dari perusahaan domestik dan asing untuk keputusan investasi. Nah, pada gambar ini bisa dilihat bagaimana diplomasi ekonomi yang diperankan oleh economic diplomat itu berhubungan dengan negara-negara di mana kedutaannya berada, dan juga dalam organisasi internasional seperti IMF dan WTO. Sementara untuk komersial diplomat itu akan melakukan atau menjalin relasi dengan national company atau perusahaan-perusahaan nasional, dan juga dengan foreign TNC atau perusahaan transnasional asing di negara asing. Nah, jadi terlihat perbedaannya. Peran dan fungsi dalam diplomasi ekonomi selanjutnya adalah corporate diplomat dan business diplomat. Corporate diplomacy ini dealing with internal stakeholders. Nah, jadi corporate diplomacy terdiri dari dua peran organisasi yang dianggap penting untuk keberhasilan koordinasi perusahaan multinasional tersebut. Nah, di sini yang berperan penting adalah disebut oleh Sanar NU manager unit business. Ya, manajer unit bisnis negara ini harus dapat berfungsi dalam dua budaya, yaitu budaya unit bisnisnya dan budaya perusahaan yang biasanya sangat dipengaruhi oleh negara asal dari MNC tersebut. Lalu kemudian juga diplomat korporat ini bisa dari negara asal ataupun warga negara lain, ini harus mampu menyerap budaya perusahaan, bisa multibahasa, dan juga memiliki berbagai latar belakang pekerjaan, dan juga kemudian berpengalaman dalam bekerja, hidup, dan berfungsi di berbagai budaya asing. Nah, dua peran ini sangat penting untuk membuat struktur multinasionalnya bisa berfungsi, ya, agar bisa menjadi penghubung di berbagai kantor pusat atau sebagai manajer sementara untuk usaha baru atau di negara host country baru. Nah, berbeda dengan corporate diplomacy, business diplomacy bertujuan untuk membuat lingkungan eksternal, ya, bagaimana agar lingkungan eksternal anak perusahaannya ini bisa kondusif untuk kegiatan bisnis. Nah, tuntutan dari masyarakat setempat tentang perilaku perusahaan, baik di masa sekarang, di masa lalu, dan masa depan, ini akan menentukan rentang kebebasan perilaku perusahaan. Nah, oleh karena itu, bisnis diplomasi ini melampaui bidang hubungan masyarakat dan kontak bisnis. Yang mana bisnis diplomasi berurusan dengan di satu sisi komunitas dan kelompok konsumen di tingkat akar rumput atau grassroots. Dan di sisi lain dengan komunitas internasional. Sehingga bisnis diplomasi ini didefinisikan bisa sebagai berikut. Nah, di mana bisnis diplomasi berkaitan dengan manajemen yang multi-phases ya, antara perusahaan global dengan beberapa mitra non-bisnis dan konstituen eksternalnya. Sebagai contoh, perusahaan global diharapkan untuk mematuhi berbagai perangkat hukum nasional dan perjanjian multilateral yang ditetapkan oleh organisasi internasional seperti WTO dan ILO. Karena perusahaan global, kemudian bisnis diplomasi ini bernegosiasi dengan otoritas negara tuan rumah, ya, berhubungan juga dengan NGO atau LSM lokal dan internasional dalam mempengaruhi agenda lokal dan global. Nah, silakan diperhatikan gambar ya. Jadi di sini korporat diplomat ini berurusan untuk mengatur internal stakeholders ya. Nah, bisa dilihat di sini bahwa ini bagaimana hubungan dari headquarters ya, pusat perusahaan dengan cabang-cabangnya di negara 1, 2, 3 dan selanjutnya. Nah, berbeda dengan bisnis diplomat yang akan berurusan keluar, ya, eksternal stakeholders, bisa dengan serikat buruh, bisa dengan kepala suku, bisa dengan partai politik, dan juga dengan NGO. Jadi bisa terlihat perbedaannya. Selanjutnya adalah National NGO Diplomat dan Transnational NGO Diplomat. NGO yang berorientasi ekonomi fokus pada kebijakan ekonomi, pengembangan ekonomi internasional, dan praktik bisnis global. Nah, perbedaan perlu dibuat antara NGO yang bertindak dalam batas-batas nasional dan NGO yang beroperasi di tingkat internasional melalui saluran asing yang mereka create. Dan juga bisa melalui aliansi dengan transnasional NGO yang memiliki visi dan misi yang sama. Nah, National NGO Diplomacy ini ya, NGO ekonomi nasional mewakili kepentingan masyarakat sipil di bidang ekonomi dan terdiri dari berbagai konstituensi mulai dari perlindungan konsumen, anti korupsi, hingga kelompok pemegang saham dan pencinta lingkungan. Nah, berbeda dengan NGO nasional, NGO transnasional secara aktif mencari cara untuk mempengaruhi agenda di badan pemerintahan internasional dengan mengedepankan rekomendasi kebijakan mereka dan dengan melobi di koridor siapa yang berkuasa ya, koridor penguasa. Nah, dialog antara NGO transnasional dengan Bank Dunia selama konferensi tahunan Bank Dunia ini adalah menjadi salah satu contohnya. Kemudian kita lanjut, Transnational NGO Diplomacy ini mampu mengorganisir acara-acara advokasi dan melobi kegiatan di tingkat lintas batas. Diplomat NGO transnasional beroperasi di tingkat internasional dan termasuk organisasi-organisasi seperti Greenpeace yang menciptakan misalnya koalisi melawan WTO dan IMF ataupun perusahaan transnasional tertentu. Nah, transnasional NGO ini mengusulkan solusi kebijakan mereka sendiri di arena internasional. Seperti misalnya selama negosiasi multilateral tentang perubahan iklim, yaitu perjanjian protokol Kyoto. Nah, bisa dilihat pada gambar bagaimana nasional NGO itu lingkarannya ada di dalam. Itu akan melakukan interaksi dengan pihak-pihak di mana mereka berkoalisi seperti di bidang politik, lalu di mana ada pressure group lain, kemudian termasuk juga bagaimana penggunaan media dan juga lobby dari konsumen. Nah, berbeda dengan transnasional NGO. Nah, ini adalah keluar lingkarannya ya, ini panah-panahnya, yang mana akan berurusan dengan tingkatan internasional ya. Jadi seperti pro Kyoto Protocol Lobby, lalu juga anti child labor campaigns, ini sifatnya sudah lintas batas ya. Baik, terakhir kita akan masuk ke kesimpulan di mana diplomasi ekonomi di era postmodern ini bisa dilihat dari 6 peran dan fungsi dalam diplomasi ekonomi yang sudah saya jelaskan sebelumnya. Di sini transnational business development itu bisa dilakukan oleh business diplomats dan corporate diplomats, lalu urusan FDI and economic multilateralism itu akan dilakoni oleh economic diplomats dan commercial diplomats, dan kemudian urusan socio-economic dan ecological development policies ini akan diperankan oleh national NGO diplomats dan transnational NGO diplomats. Dengan begitu, dari 6 peran dan fungsi ini, kita akan bisa melihat bagaimana diplomasi ekonomi berjalan secara komprehensif dalam suatu negara. Nah, sekian penjelasan saya mengenai peran
Okay, so we have heard about the international economic diplomacy based on my video lessons. So this is for introductions, where I believe that all of you have already understand how the diplomatic actors nowadays is not only state but also non-state actors. So there are some multiplications of diplomatic actors. So it's because also the proliferations of foreign affairs departments, and then also the emergence of diplomatic functions in transnational enterprises, and also the growing participations of transnational NGOs in international governance and economic diplomacy. So about the non-state actors, who has concern about the economic policy, they will participate in the process of economic diplomacy. So in this reference by Sanner and Yu, they call it as differences functions of diplomacy economic. So there are 6 functions, okay, as I have mentioned before, and also those functions were played by different roles. So there are economic diplomats, commercial diplomats, and also so on. But what you need to understand is that for non-state actors, they don't really often saying that they're diplomats. So maybe in corporate, they will use the terms of business manager or corporate officer manager and so on. So, but in this textbook, as academics, we need to define what should be they called based on their roles. Okay, so the globalizations has also played an important role in increasing the complexity of the interactions in international economic system. And also now we can talk about the 6 different types of economic diplomacy. For economic diplomat and commercial diplomat, they were played by the state or by the government. And I believe that in the previous meeting, we have already talked about this a lot, and also from the lesson of Mbak Santi, where she was talking about state as the agent of the economic diplomacy. So I will not repeat the materials for this economic diplomat and commercial diplomat. But what you need to understand, how should we define this, is by understanding that economic diplomacy is dealing with another countries, and then dealing with international organizations, while the commercial diplomat will deal with mostly the companies, okay, either national companies or foreign companies. The commercial diplomats have missions to promote the trade and also investation in their home countries. So they need to approach the national company and also the foreign company. And then we can move on to the number 3 and number 4, which is the economic diplomacy by the corporate. Now, how to differentiate this is by understanding that corporate diplomat is talking about how does the headquarters of the company will manage the operations of their branch in another countries. Okay, so that's what you can see in this circle, that the corporate diplomat is talking about the relationship with its subsidiaries abroad in country 1, country 3, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on. So that's about the corporate diplomat. And the group of the presenter have already mentioned how about Gojek, which is expanding its business to Vietnam, called GoViet. So then we will talk about it later based on your question. And then about the business diplomat or business diplomacy, it is related about how the management between the companies with the stakeholders, external stakeholders. So the business diplomat will focus on one country. So in one country, there will be a labor union, there will be tribal leader, there will be political party, and also NGO. So how should the business deal with those stakeholders? That's what they call business diplomat. So the business diplomat will negotiate with the authority of its in one country, in this home country, and also having a relationship, building the relationship with the NGO, political party, and also labor union. So that's what they call as business diplomat. And in this business diplomat, unfortunately, the presenter doesn't provide any example for this. So maybe you can think about Coca-Cola, okay? So Coca-Cola have expanded its business in so many countries. There's some pro and contra, of course, for its establishment. Either it's a public or maybe the company itself, but how did they manage to establish in so many countries? That's what it's being called as one of the success of business diplomats for the multinational company. And then we can move on. For national NGOs diplomat and transnational NGOs diplomat, this is what we will learn for next week. So for the group who will give the presentations next week, apakah ada anggota presentasi yang akan presentasi minggu depan? Kelompok minggu ke-7 siapa? Hadir? Kelompok minggu ke-7. Naomi, can you please check who is the next presenter for next week?
Yes. Ya, sorry Mbak.
the next presentators for the next week is there are two member is Muhammad Fahad and Rispal, madam. Sorry, Mbak
Muhammad
dan ini Rispal yang akan
nggak hadir ya?
Iya, lagi nggak ada di Zoom.
Okay, so maybe you can pass my message to them that they need to give presentations for next week is about this, okay? So the references or the article, you can access it in Leeds. So they need to talk about national NGO diplomats and transnational NGO diplomat based on what I have uploaded in Leeds, and also they need to give the examples of study case of both diplomacy.
Oke, Mbak. Oke, Mbak. Baik,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is national NGO diplomats and transnational NGO diplomats. So we will talk about this next week. Okay, but and then as a conclusions that the transnational business development can be done or consists of corporate diplomats and also business diplomats, while for foreign direct investment and economic multilateralisms will consist of economic diplomats and commercial diplomats. And then for the socio-economic or ecological development policies, there will be national NGOs diplomat and transnational NGOs diplomats. So that's how the postmodern economic diplomacy in negotiating global economic global architecture setting out. Okay, so that's how they setting standards at multilateral organizations, and also that's how it manage multi-stakeholders, coalitions, and alliances, and then also how they shape the socio-economic or ecological development policies. So that's all for today's materials, and then now we can continue our discussions by the group of presenters. I can see that there are several questions, but also I still expecting more of the question. So please, Gina and Renandra, to take over this presentation again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Wiwik, for the explanation about our material today. So this time I want to answer the question from Aisyah from group 9. The question is, I want to ask a question. When a national company expanding their business to other country, what challenge do they face? Thank you. So me and Gina already discussed about it, and we have agreed that the challenge faced in general is about adapting to an increasingly borderless world. One of the challenges is regarding regulation that vary from country to country. For example, the issue of license. Good capabilities are needed to understand existing regulation in order to enter and run a business in accordance with applicable regulation. In addition to regulation, determining the right strategy to enter and run a business in the destination country is also a challenge. The company must be able to consider the market potential, regulation, level of competition, as well as the condition of society in the destination country. In addition, human resources are also needed who have a good understanding of the condition and situation in the local country. So Aisyah, is it clear enough? Okay, thank you for the question. For the question from Jonathan Helomoan, we still discuss about it. So, Mbak Wiwik, can we get some more time? Thank you.
Yes, please take your time. And also for other groups, please ask your question so we can discuss it together.
Okay, so we already prepared our answer for the question from Jonathan Helmwan. Gina, uh, answer the question from Jonathan Helmwan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the question is, can the government of Indonesia be involved directly to help the company to maximize their opportunities and profits? So the Indonesian government itself was enthusiastic about this plan and facilitated Gojek, which was proven when President Joko Widodo gave Go-Viet his blessing on his visit to the 2018 World Economic Forum in Vietnam. The government here acts as a policymaker and establish norms, legal basis, and direction for cooperation and cooperation. Thus, the government has an intangible mandate to monitor and facilitate the companies operating in other countries, either through economic sanction or comprehensive economic agreements or CEPA, or free trade agreements, FTA, or bilateral agreements that contain specific norms and provisions for assist their companies in accordance with the interests of the country's economic diplomacy. Support for Gojek's technology and expansion was also appreciated by Indonesian officials, from the minister to the president of Indonesia, who were also present at the inauguration of Go-Viet in Vietnam. President Jokowi also strongly supports Gojek's expansion to various countries and hoped that it will improve trade relations with Vietnam. This is supported by President Joko Widodo's visions to accommodate and attract investors from other countries to invest in Indonesian flag unicorns, and it is hoped that these companies can provide an Indonesian presence through branding, especially since the implementation of comprehensive economic and development cooperation, such as the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement or CEPA, can encourage the integration of both trade in goods and trade in services that are more efficient and not hindered by bureaucracy and technical challenges. The country, in this case Indonesia, can also have a significant impact directly by negotiating with the country to be expanded, in this case Vietnam, so the companies that want to expand can be facilitated by the local country. Considering this can also be a branding of the country and can make the country proud. If there is a company that can go international, as has been done by Sandiaga Uno, who often visits booths and promotes Indomie in various countries that are holding events. That's all. Is it already answered the question, Jonathan Halman?
Yes, thank you for the answer, Group T.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we already answered both of the question from other group. Is there any more question?
So maybe let me ask you a question. So in relations to Gojek expansion to other countries, what do you think its core values that should be implemented and then brought by the diplomats of its Gojek? So try to answer based on the concept that you have talked about, okay?
Okay, can we have more time to answer your question, Mbak?
Yes, so we are talking about the corporate diplomat. So in Gojek itself, what do you think that its manager, its country's manager, should really value as its core value of Gojek? Okay, can you answer my question already? Salah nggak apa-apa, nggak perlu terlalu lama nih merenungnya.
Not yet, Mbak. Rada susah ya. Ntar ya, Mbak.
Oke, pertanyaan dari yang lain nggak ada? Okay, while Renandra and also Gina is talking about how to answer the questions, yang perlu dipahami kemudian adalah kita bicara di sini adalah pelaku bisnis, okay? So what is the ways atau apa taktiknya bagi pelaku bisnis ini to influence the government's policy? So we will move to the business diplomat, okay? Biarkan Renandra dan Gina sedang bingung dengan corporate diplomacy. Now we will focus on business diplomacy. So we are talking about how should business influence the influence the government's policy. So first they can what should they do is by doing lobbying. Ya, jadi ada yang namanya lobby bisnis. Oke. Para pelaku usaha ini ya atau yang disebut sebagai bisnis diplomat ini dapat melakukan bisnis atau lobby bisnisnya dengan cara yang berbeda-beda. Kalau sistem lobby di Amerika Serikat itu legal ya. Kalau di Indonesia itu tidak bisa. Bisnis melobi anggota dewan tuh nggak bisa. Itu disebut sebagai KKN. Nah, kemudian bagaimana caranya lobby ini terjadi misalnya di Indonesia? Yaitu misalnya dengan membangun hubungan dengan pemerintah itu melalui asosiasi. Jadi asosiasi industri apa, asosiasi perdagangan apa, lalu kemudian by using consultant, melalui konsultan, ataupun kombinasi dari asosiasi and consultant. And also, the businessman can also involve in direct lobby by using by using their karyawan apa bahasa Inggrisnya, menggunakan karyawannya ya, atau menggunakan stakeholder lain ataupun masyarakat umum di mana mereka bisa menyampaikan pandangan mereka kepada para pembuat kebijakan. Jadi sistem lobbynya adalah lewat pemberitaan gitu ya. Jadi they manage the public issues and then by using the media, by using ads and also news, they can targeting some interest into the public sector. Jadi para pebisnis ini melibatkan diri juga dalam lobby tidak langsung dalam menggunakan iklan, berita, media yang dapat menargetkan kepentingan tertentu terhadap sektor publik yang mereka sasar seperti itu. Nah, lobby bisnis ini perlu diketahui memiliki pengaruh kuat terhadap kebijakan pemerintah. Oke, bahwa bisnis ini akan sifatnya bermitra dan berinteraksi dengan pemerintah, lalu dengan kelompok kepentingan lain, dan juga bisa memilih untuk terlibat dalam lobby sosialnya, ya kan? Contohnya dengan bergabung dalam LSM, ya, itu kan artinya memberi dukungan langsung, ya kan? Nah, itu adalah satu bentuk lobby yang bisa dilakukan. So that's what the business diplomat do. They will interact with the labor union, they will interact with the tribal leader, they will interact with the political party, and also they will interact with the NGOs. Okay? And then they also can give some contributions for the campaigns, okay? It is to support their positions and also to influence the public policy that will lead to another advantage for the business. Jadi contohnya adalah pemberian kontribusi kampanye kepada partai politik misalnya atau kepada calon presiden, di mana misalnya dana kampanye Jokowi Ma'ruf 2019 itu besar sekali persentasenya, di mana memang muncul dari badan usaha non pemerintah ya, sekitar 3,99 miliar kalau dilaporkan dalam Pilpres Tempo. Nah, artinya ketika mereka memberikan kontribusi politik, artinya mereka kemudian bisa memiliki the significant places in the political system where and then the policy will affect their sustainability of their business, seperti itu. Akan menjaga ke sustainability ya dari bisnis mereka. And then also the the last one is that they will join in the interest group atau kelompok kepentingan, ya. Jadi partisipasi bisnis dalam kelompok kepentingan, contohnya asosiasi ataupun asosiasi buruhnya atau asosiasi pengusahanya. Nah, di mana di sini dilihat bahwa kelompok kepentingan ini adalah memang sekelompok individu yang diorganisir untuk mencari pengaruh kebijakan publik. Sehingga ada keragaman dalam kelompok kepentingan, namun bagaimanapun juga bisnis ini hanyalah salah satu dari banyak sektor kelompok kepentingan yang mencoba mempengaruhi publik, kebijakan publik. Oleh karena itu, interaksi mereka dengan kelompok kepentingan lainnya ini adalah salah satu upaya yang dilakukan dalam bisnis diplomasi. So, itu tambahan untuk bisnis diplomasi. Bisa dipahami atau ada pertanyaan? Silakan. Oke, kalau tidak ada pertanyaan, boleh
saya mau bertanya.
MZ siapa
tadi,
ya?
Hilmi, Mbak.
Siapa?
Hilmi. Hilmi.
Oke, silakan.
Nah, tadi kan Mbak bilang kan di Indonesia tuh kalau mau lobby pemerintah kan nggak bisa ya kan, harus lewat pihak yang tidak langsung gitu kayak asosiasi. Nah, tapi ketika seorang pejabat itu juga sebagai pelaku usaha, bukannya lobby politik itu bakal terjadi secara langsung, Mbak? Itu bagaimana, Mbak ya?
Iya, jadi kalau kita misalnya nonton berita, banyak kan yang namanya operasi tangkap tangan itu ya, KPK itu adalah ketika ada transaksi bisnis dari pebisnis kepada anggota dewan atau perwakilan pemerintah, seperti itu. Sehingga memang kalau dalam hukum Indonesia yang namanya lobby itu erat sekali dengan budaya KKN. Sehingga lobby itu kemudian bagaimana mengakomodirnya adalah dengan tadi itu, interaksi-interaksi itu bisa dilakukan secara official, di mana misalnya dalam proses diplomasi ekonomi kan harus melibatkan bagaimana kita sudah belajar para kementerian itu memiliki ini pribadi ya, referensi-referensi pribadi untuk mereka melakukan konsultasi dengan pebisnis. Nah, disitulah kemudian pebisnis memberikan masukan dan juga memasukkan lobby mereka. Jadi itu adalah wadahnya. Ketika memang ada interaksi yang dibutuhkan dalam suatu sistem negosiasi. Namun kemudian bagaimana kalau anggota dewan itu sendiri memang pebisnis, yang mana memang kenyataannya begitu ya. Jadi banyak kita lihat bagaimana memang anggota dewan ini kemudian securing their own interest by using their political power. Jadi itu memang terjadi ya, lobby-lobby politik, namun bagaimanapun juga dunia perlobian ini ya, saya pun bukan orang politik yang pernah terjun ke partai, namun kemudian dalam proses lobby ini bagaimanapun juga ada yang namanya kepentingan partai juga ya kan. Jadi kemudian kita juga bicara koalisi, mendukung pemerintah atau tidak. Artinya saya rasa membutuhkan mungkin sosok yang betul-betul berpengaruh untuk bisa kemudian meloloskan lobby ekonominya melalui lobby politik. Tapi saya tidak akan mengingkari bahwa posisi di Indonesia sendiri di mana memang anggota dewan banyak juga bisnismen, sehingga peluang-peluang itu cukup besar. Contohnya misalnya dalam kasus yang pernah saya teliti adalah tentang swasembada daging, di mana anggota partai PKS itu sudah melakukan memberikan kuota impor kepada para eksportir daging sapi Australia dengan uang suap sekian, dan itu memang dilancarkan karena mereka si anggotanya sendiri memang eksportir seperti atau importir seperti itu. Jadi memang it still happens and it is what in Indonesia. Jadi memang tapi ya sebagaimana saya jawab tadi di awal, sudah ada jalur yang benarnya yang diupayakan pemerintah. Seperti itu mungkin MZ.
Baik, Kak. Terima kasih.
Oke. Kamu nulis MZ, nanti saya ambil absen, nggak tahu MZ ini siapa. Oke, sudah bisa menjawab Renandra dan Gina.
Oke, Mbak, tapi kalau misalnya rada keliru atau gimana, mohon maaf ya, Mbak ya.
Dulu.
Bentar. So the Gojek itself carries the characteristic of Indonesian informal public transportation, namely motorcycle taxi, where this label has turned into one of the official transportation that are affordable for all classes of society. This kind of branding has enabled Gojek before expanding to other countries to increase the market valuation and the amount of resources they have. Gojek corporate image is expressed as an application of branding and marketing image that are used to promote an image and become part of people's daily life even more than government strategies. This has become one of the content of the public diplomacy discourse itself and is objectified as a soft power approach to influence the people and governments of other countries. Gojek in Indonesia, when they were able to win the trust of investor, which in 2016 Gojek became a unicorn and received an injection of investor fund of $50 million. Gojek's business strategy model is based on how market penetration can be achieved by looking at new development opportunities that can increase service sales through evaluation of the spectrum combination of this market. And Gojek in this case is able to maintain its main image as a provider of online transportation service without having to experience difficulties in diversifying service for changing community needs. This kind of business model is able to support Gojek's smooth corporate diplomacy through GoViet in Vietnam, which is facilitated by the Indonesian government. Several things that Gojek strive for in its expansion program to several countries in ASEAN are indirectly trying to raise Indonesian image through technological and market capabilities. Prior to launch of GoViet in Vietnam, GoViet leaders were first invited to see the Indonesian market, from which some of the image that could be seen were how Ojek become informal public transportation in Indonesia. The GoViet application, which of course adopt technology from Gojek, which incidentally comes from Indonesia, is also an effort to introduce the performance of technology owned by Indonesia, so that in the future it is not impossible that more technology from Indonesia, even though it is not sponsored by the government, can enter the realm of technology internationally. GoViet has been removed and its name has been changed to Gojek with the aim of strengthening the trademark. It actually enhance the Indonesia identity in it. The Gojek trademark will bring Indonesia into it, considering that this company is a unicorn from Indonesia. With the strengthening of Indonesia image through this thing, it is certain that there will be potential for increased cooperation between Indonesia and Vietnam. Indonesia company will be increasingly ogled, and of course it is not impossible that in the next few years that will be more companies expanding in Southeast Asia. Gitu nggak sih Mbak? Betul nggak Mbak? Apa gimana? Mungkin dari Mbak Monica ada tambahan.
Oke, referensinya dari punya Jose ya ini ya.
Iya betul Mbak.
Oke, jadi kalau bisa disimak tadi oleh kelas ya bahwa memang apa yang dilakukan dalam corporate diplomacy oleh Gojek ya di Vietnam yang dikenal sebagai GoViet, bahwa mereka sudah melakukan sejumlah strategi yang mana ini yang ditekankan kepada cabang Vietnam ya. Jadi the core values in Indonesia tadi disebutkan oleh Renandra bahwa the image of daily life needs ya, bahwa Gojek ini merupakan solusi bagi daily life needs of peoples. Ini ditekankan ketika mereka menemukan investasi dan ingin membuka atau mengekspansi ke Vietnam ini. Sehingga strategi-strateginya ya dalam melakukan penetrasi pasar, pengembangan produk, dan bagaimana penetapan dari diversifikasinya atau pembedaan layanan ini yang disesuaikan ya berdasarkan apa yang berangkat dari nation branding yang dilakukan Gojek di Indonesia. Jadi itulah yang diperlukan oleh para corporate diplomat ini, bahwa bagaimanapun juga mereka perlu menjaga ya nilai dan relasi apa yang dihadirkan di headquarters atau kantor pusat kepada subsidiarisnya atau cabangnya, yang contohnya di sini adalah di Vietnam. Sehingga memang bagaimana produk mereka bisa diterima di negara baru, ini adalah tugas dari si corporate diplomat untuk memastikan bahwa the values and the strategy match in every country yang mau mereka expand, seperti itu. Nah, baik ya, jawaban dari Renandra ya. Untuk referensi, kalian bisa cek leads ya. Jadi kalian bisa baca lagi dan memahami lebih lanjut mengenai corporate diplomacy and also business diplomacy. Okay, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for Renandra and also Gina for the presentations and also for the question and also for all the participations today. So, ini ada yang baru join, ini Rispal ya. Rispal yang mau presentasi minggu depan ya?
Saya masih 2 minggu lagi, Bu.
2 minggu lagi UTS.
Saya kelompok 6, ini kelompok 3, berarti saya kelompok 6.
Tadi di info Naomi bukannya si Rispal ini. Mana?
Rispal cek di grup, kamu kelompok 4 sama Fahad. Dapat giliran, itu kan setelah di Wheel of Names, kamu dapat giliran keempat, kelompok 4 setelah Gina dan
Oke.
Oke, untuk Rispal, tolong dikonfirmasi bahwa kamu paham ya. Minggu depan itu adalah presentasi mengenai national NGO and transnational NGO. Jadi harap dibuat studi kasusnya lebih detail daripada kelompok hari ini, bahwa masing-masing diberikan contoh dan dibahas dengan detail. Jadi nggak perlu bahas secara umum ya, namun langsung khusus kepada 2 jenis diplomasi, yang mana referensinya bisa kamu akses di leads. Bisa paham?
Baik, paham, Bu.
Oke, terima kasih. So that's all for today. I have already screen captured the screen for today's kehadiran hari ini ya. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.